Hello, and welcome to Conversations with Linda. I'm Linda. Listen, I love a good conversation, so let's have one. Now, before we start our conversation, I've got to give you a dose of good medicine. Laughter is just good medicine for the soul. So today's joke comes from my grandbaby. I call her Sugar, but her name is Harper. And this is the joke she tells her teacher. So why was 6 afraid of 7? Because 7, 8, 9. Get it? 7, 8, 9. 7, 8, 9. It was really funny to me. Come on, let's go on and have a good conversation. Well, I'm sure that you saw that my scenery was different. And that's because I am in Los Angeles, California. I am at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel. But I'm also here sharing a conversation with my niece, Stephanie Willis Harris. Stephanie, welcome to Conversations with Linda.
Thank you for having me.
All right, girl. Now, this is just family talking. We're just family talking.
Absolutely.
We just happen to be talking in front of a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Stephanie, I invited you to have a conversation with me because conversations gives me an opportunity to share people's stories in a conversational way. Mm-hmm. And you have such a unique story that many people may not even know about. I mean, even people that are around you may not know. And you have agreed to share this story with me. And it's the story of being the child of 2 addicted parents,
Right.
Addicted to drugs.
Right.
I know this is a vulnerable moment. And so, it's all right to shed tears. And we're just going to do what we do, and that is we just have a good conversation.
Absolutely.
Okay. Both of your parents were addicted to drugs. I mean, we usually hear the story of one parent, but both of your parents were. And so can you tell me when was your first sense or awareness that they were addicted?
Well, for my mother, I would have to say maybe like the 4th or the 5th grade.
The 4th or the 5th grade.
Yeah, so I have to be about maybe what is that 8 years old?
Yeah.
Maybe 10, something
10,
like that.
maybe
Yeah,
10, maybe 10.
I noticed that she would take things back, like after purchasing things and take things back, even like dolls and stuff, like gifts that were given to me.
Really?
Yes, gifts that were given to me, and she would take those things back. But I didn't really know what was really going on until I would find paraphernalia, what do you call it? Things that they do drugs with.
Oh, the paraphernalia.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I still didn't know exactly what it was.
Because at 10 years old,
at 10 years old, you don't know.
You
don't know what it is.
paraphernalia.
Yeah, you just see it, and it's like, well, I wonder what this is. And
Okay.
as time went on, then things got worse.
Uh-huh.
Now, for my father, I really didn't know how addicted he was until I really got around him.
Okay.
And
because you all weren't sharing the same house.
No.
Okay.
No. Okay. We were not sharing the same house. So my father, his was a little bit deeper, I think, than her. He was on a little bit more of like pills and things of that nature.
Okay.
So I never saw him do it. I just would see his actions.
Okay.
In the physical state.
Okay.
Of what the drugs were doing to him.
Okay. His behavior.
Absolutely.
And so, at what point or how did you come to understand what addiction was? Did somebody explain it to you?
Well, during that time, Linda, I was in elementary school, so there was a program called DARE.
Wow,
I
remember that?
Yes,
I remember that.
And so I believe I was in the 5th or 6th grade, and there was a police officer that would come to our class at least once a week, and that's when I knew what drugs were. Wow. And that's how I kind of put it together, what was really going on with my mother, because of that DARE program. So that was like a big enlightenment.
Big aha moment.
Yeah.
And did you talk to him? Did you go home and ask or tell somebody you had found out?
No. I mean, how do you tell on your mother?
Mm.
And who do you tell on your mother?
Wow.
How do you go to your mother and say, I know you on drugs, or I know something's wrong? You're the child.
Yeah. Wow. And so you have to hold all of that in and be in the 5th grade, going to school with friends,
Right.
all of that.
Yeah.
Trying to be normal in a dysfunctional situation.
Absolutely.
My. I have found in sharing with and doing counseling with kids that have addictive parents that there is a reversal of roles.
Yes.
That the child begins to take on the role of the parent because they're trying to manage all of that behavior.
Yeah.
Did that happen to you?
That happened to me when my mother went to prison.
Okay.
I was 15 years old when my mother went to prison. And when my mother came home from prison, I was 26. So now at this point, I have my own child. And so now I'm like, well, do I trust her with my kid? Because she didn't do too good with me. You know what I'm saying? But I had to take a class. And I took a class when I knew that around the time that she was coming home, so that I can get my mental straight and my emotional state intact. So I had taken this class because I really didn't know, because my mother was paroled to my house.
Okay.
So now she's going to be living with me, not me living with her.
Wow.
So
stick a pin in that, because I want to go back to before you were 15.
Okay.
Because I remember you telling me that there was a point at which you were covering for her. So you took on the role of kind of taking care of her. Because when she was stealing, you tell me about it.
So when she would like take things that, from the house or what have you, I would pretty much say, oh, well, I think I lost it, or I don't know, I didn't see it, or whatever the situation, and I knew she had it, So it had gotten to a point where she couldn't come to my great-grandmother's house because my mother's grandmother raised me along with my paternal grandparents. So it was, the great-grandmother and the paternal grandparents, that's kind of how I became.
You were just kind of at their house.
I never had a place. Never had a place. You never feel like you fit, but so I did cover for her. And then one particular time, my paternal grandfather asked me about amusement park. He asked me, how was Magic Mountain? Because my mother would, she knew that she could call him and get anything for me. And so she had told him this particular time that I was going on a trip with the school or whatever. And he asked me, how was the trip? And at that point, at 12 years old, I told him, do not give her any more money, because at this point, she's on drugs. And that's how I told, at that point at 12 years old, I told my grandfather that she's on drugs.
Wow. I can't even imagine. Now, I had an alcoholic father, but he didn't live in the house, home with us. And so I can't even imagine what a load that was.
But to be honest with you, Linda, I felt like there was a burden lifted.
Because you told?
Because I told.
Okay.
Because now I have somebody that's going to protect me. Because, and right after that, my grandfather, they came and picked me up from my mother's house. And so I went to stay with them until, of course, my grandfather got sick and I had to go back to the great-grandmother. So, you know what I'm saying? So I kind of bounced back and forth. Yeah. But I was not in the home with her anymore. Yeah.
All right, going to school, just being in school activity. What's interesting, even as, you and I have revisited this story since I've been here in LA this week. But what's interesting is I was married to Kevin. And I remember you being that little cute girl with the big fluffy dresses on, because your grandmother, Kevin's mom, and of course your maternal grandmom, they were dressing you and all that, never even knowing
all this was going on.
All this was happening. Because you just seemed like your normal self.
Right.
Not knowing that you were internalizing. And that says so much about what children go through, right? That we don't know that they go through. Even when they're coming to school and maybe they don't have their paper and pencil and teachers, because teachers are being teachers, which is what they're supposed to do. But they are having to, they may be even penalizing a child. Just thinking the child is being absent-minded or neglectful, not knowing the conditions, the trauma that's going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
My. Okay. You were going to school.
Mm-hmm.
You had friends, church, all of that. Did you ever feel embarrassed or ashamed?
Yes, of course I did, Linda. Of course I did. Nobody knew
Okay.
who my mother was. I never talked about it. And I found that easy to do because she wasn't there. So how do you talk about somebody that's not there?
Okay.
They knew that I lived with my grandparents, but they never knew because I never really let anybody get too close to whereas they could really find out who my mother was.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was times that in high school, walking to my bus stop, my mother would be pushing a basket, Linda.
Pushing a basket?
Like you see homeless people on the street? She was pushing a basket. It had got to that point. And I'm walking and I see her, but that was her only way of seeing me. So she was trying to see me, but I didn't want to see her because, you know what I'm saying, in that state.
Because
now I got to go to school.
Yeah.
I just saw her pushing a basket, but I got to go to school and take a test. And people think that you just want to be grown because you're not listening. No, it's not that I'm not listening. I got all this stuff
going on.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Listen, I just want to give you a minute to breathe, and I want to give you a minute to breathe. So we're going to take a commercial break. Hey, chit chatters! Listen, do you know of a woman that's deserving of a fresh start? Someone that's deserving of just a change. Conversations with Linda, along with our partners, is giving away 2 makeovers to 2 lucky women who are in need of a fresh start. Go to LindaWillisEmpowers.org today to nominate a deserving woman. Nominations close on October 29th. All right, make those nominations, get them in. October 29th is the deadline. So welcome back to Conversations with Linda. I'm here talking in California, Los Angeles, California, with my niece, Stephanie Willis Harris. And Stephanie has been just so amazing in this conversation, so transparent and vulnerable in this moment. We're talking about her experience with not 1, but 2 parents that were addicted to drugs. Stephanie, we left off before the commercial and you were talking about seeing your mother pushing a basket like we see the homeless.
Right, because she was homeless.
She was homeless. And you're on your way to school.
I'm on my way walking to my bus stop to get on the bus to go to school, yes.
So did you go up to her?
No.
Because?
Well, my friends were at the bus stop.
Wow.
So I acted as if I didn't know her.
I'm just trying to.
I know.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah,
I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
And you said something. You said that people think you're trying to act grown.
Yeah. Well, at that time, I'm fighting so much.
Yeah.
So much happened at 15 for me. So I'm fighting. I'm trying to figure out who I am.
Yeah.
Trying to understand why am I even here.
Yeah. Because by 15. The average 15-year-old, they are now old enough to really understand.
Yeah.
And old enough to have an opinion and feelings about a situation.
Absolutely.
And so you're a 15-year-old pretty girl,
thank you,
trying to navigate life.
Right. With all of these circumstances.
Mm-hmm. Was anybody talking to you, like,
helping
you process?
No.
Because life was,
back then, Linda, and for us as Black people, our culture, we didn't do counseling.
Absolutely.
You just grown, you trying to get grown, and you think you know everything, you're smelling yourself is what they would say.
That was their interpretation.
Right. Yeah. So no, they didn't, it was never like, let me talk to you, let me see what's really on your mind.
Yeah.
Because everybody was so involved in their own stuff.
Yeah.
That I was like kind of left on the back burner. Mm-hmm. But I had a roof over my head.
Well, and I was going to say that. It's funny you said that because that's exactly what I was thinking. my dad was an alcoholic, and so I get the whole. It makes you grow up really fast.
That's what it does.
Because you're dealing with grown stuff.
Yes.
But I do know that parents back then and grandparents and aunties and uncles and all that, their first priority was just making sure that, as you said, you got a roof over your head, food to eat, because they feel that's the most pressing issue.
Right.
And for, it is in a sense that you make sure that you're not out without a place to live. Right. And so they did that. But as you said, it's the feelings and all of the mental torment that you're dealing with that nobody really sees, understands, or addresses.
Right, right.
And so I have let my folk off the hook. I have forgiven because I know they were just doing what they knew to do.
Well, that's what you do.
Yeah.
And that's how you're able to continue on
living. Yeah.
Because if I stayed stuck there, where would I really be today?
Absolutely. So now let's say we're going back. I told you we were sticking a pin.
Right.
When your mom, she went to prison, and you were 15. How did that affect you,
Linda? It was like a sign of relief, to be honest with you.
Really?
And it was a sign of relief because I knew where she was.
Girl, you about to make me fall off this.
No, but it's I knew where she was. Because on the street with that basket, we didn't know where she was, really where she was going and what she was doing.
The fear.
But the fear
of where she could be if she's being harmed.
And that was one of the reasons why she did go to prison, because she was harmed.
Okay.
Yeah, she was protecting herself.
Okay.
And she murdered somebody.
You about to make me fall off this.
Yeah, out on the street.
I've been in your family 35 years, and I didn't know this.
Yes, girl, yes.
I'm talking about I've been here 35 years.
No, not 35 seconds. I know 35 years. But we never got this deep in conversation. We talked about some stuff.
We did.
We have talked about a lot. I don't know, Linda. You had your stuff.
You had
your stuff.
I was dealing with my own
right,
stuff.
that's what I'm saying.
And I didn't know your mom.
You didn't know my mom.
And your dad was really
not there. So how could
he wasn't connected to you or the family.
Right. So how could you know what I'm saying?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
And for her to even go to prison, Linda, and come home for murdering somebody, that was nobody but God. She wasn't supposed to walk on the concrete again.
Jesus.
That's what. Yeah. So.
So how did you wrap your mind around it,
Linda? God. Like, seriously.
Because your grandparents gave you a foundation.
That foundation. They introduced me to Jesus Christ. And that was the most important thing that anybody could ever do to give anybody. Yeah. Is that introduction. And so from that day on to now, I thank them. Well, my grandfather isn't here. My nanny's still here. But I thank them for that. Like, seriously.
And I got to say to our conversation viewers, I say all the time, it's wonderful to have your children in basketball, baseball, cheerleading, gymnastics, all of that. But what they need most is to be introduced to Jesus Christ.
Yes,
because we don't know where life is going to take our children.
But He knows.
And they need Him.
Yes.
Because life may take them some places that we can't do anything about. Right. Okay, so let me. Okay, that was my little witness for a minute.
It's okay.
Okay, so she goes to prison for murder. You're left with who? Who do you live with?
I was with my great-grandmother, which was my maternal great-grandmother, which is my mother's grandmother. Okay. And still with my paternal grandparents. Okay. So on holidays and weekends or what have you, I would go with my paternal grandparents, and then regular season, I would be with my maternal great-grandmother. Okay.
So she's in prison. Did you get a chance to visit her, talk to her? Okay.
That was and I didn't go often. Okay. When I did, because it was so hard to leave her. The leaving part was the hardest thing for me, because once I left, that was it. And I'd have to wait for a phone call.
Wow. My goodness. Yeah. And that's another behavior of children of drug addiction, alcoholism, parents, is that they again feel responsible because you're leaving her, and you're having to leave her in prison, and you don't know what's happening to her in prison, right? And so feeling that sense of responsibility feeling that worry,
Yeah.
a worry that a 15-year-old should not have.
Right.
You were feeling all of that.
Mm-hmm.
My goodness. So, how did it affect you as an adult? Because now you go from 15 to 26 not having your mom.
Mm-hmm.
How did it affect you?
So God gave me fillers.
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 I love that. I love that.
So I've always had, I've always blessed with like good jobs,
Mm-hmm.
and I worked for United Airlines, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and so there were always like older ladies that were at my job, and we're still friends to this day. Like when I met them, they were in their 40s, now they're in their 70s.
Oh, wow.
So they were my, they were my fillers. And so the craziest thing is when my mom came home, they embraced her as well. They became her friends. Yeah. So she didn't have, she didn't have those friends, but she ended up, with my friends.
I said on the episode that we had about daddy issues that in order to heal, we can rewrite the narrative and put the parent that hurt us, was not there for us or whatever. We can kind of put them back in the shadows and bring to light those other people that God used in our lives, and shine that light on them, and it then kind of transforms our story.
Right.
When we recognize that God gave us other characters
Absolutely.
in our story.
Absolutely.
That is awesome. Stephanie, were you ever afraid that you were going to be like your mom?
No.
Never afraid?
Never. Because I never wanted to try the drugs that she did, because I saw what it did to her and some other family members.
Okay.
And so I felt like I wasn't better than them. And if it did that to them, I can imagine what it would do to me.
Wow.
And so I needed to be in my right mind to help her.
It's interesting that you say that, because I had that same feeling about my dad, that knowing that he was an alcoholic the way he was, and seeing other people in my family become alcoholics, I knew that was just not a road I could go down. I couldn't play with that.
Well, not only that, Linda, genetics is something else.
Absolutely.
So
that's exactly what I'm talking about. I know what's in my blood.
That's what I'm saying. So when I like something, I like it.
Yeah.
And I go overboard.
Yeah.
So that I knew, like, no, that would not be good for me.
Yeah.
And I didn't want that for me. I saw what it did to her. So yeah.
So how has all of this played out in your own relationships? Because we're talking a lot about your mom, but you also had this absent addicted dad. And so now let's talk about the grown Stephanie, dealing with relationships. And now I'm talking about, men and love relationships. How have you seen that play out in any, and not just in an addiction, but in any other ways? Did it make you hard? Did it make you afraid to trust? How has that played out?
I was always afraid of abandonment with relationships.
Yeah.
In male-female relationships. I was always afraid of them leaving.
Because you had been left.
Because I've been left so many times, so that was one of my biggest fears. And it was abandonment. And it was scary. It's scary. So you don't really trust.
Okay. Because if you trust too much,
something happens. It seems like something happens.
Yeah. I get it. And a lot of women and men deal with it. I think, and I've said this on our show before, I think that's the reason some men have commitment phobia.
Right.
Is because there's some abandonment somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And so they don't want to get too close because close makes you vulnerable to somebody leaving you. And so we don't want to hurt. And so we just put those defense mechanisms.
So you don't want to open up all the way. And if you open up, and then you're let down.
Right. So I know that you've had some problems with your son. We've talked about that.
Yes.
Do you think there's any connection with him inheriting any of these qualities?
Yes, I would say so. You don't know it until you're dealing with it. And you really don't even understand it when you're dealing with it until you kind of go back and say, that's that's why he was doing those things.
Okay.
And a lot of it, I see that he has some of my father's characteristics, of course, some of mine as well. But the thing about it is, I had to really sit down and have a conversation with him as an adult.
Okay.
And apologize to him for some of my decisions that I made as a parent that I really didn't know because I didn't have my mother to show me. So how do you really parent someone when you were not parented properly?
Wow.
So the decisions that I made for him, I thought they were the best decisions for him at that time. And so as an adult, we talk now, and he's able to communicate because I'm open. I'm not just like I was your mother and I did it because that's what I was supposed to do.
You began to understand yourself.
Right.
And in understanding yourself, you were able to explain to him what was going on.
And so that's how the relationship we have now is a whole lot better than what it was even a few years ago.
I tell people all the time, we parent in real time. We're parenting while we're still growing up. We're parenting while we're still trying to figure life out. And we don't make all the best decisions. We don't do everything right. And sometimes it takes you getting older, getting more perspective, but you can't go back and undo what you've done. But you can explain it. You can try to help your child. And so y'all cut your parents some slack here. Because parents are doing oftentimes the best they can do because we're all victims of victims.
Yes. Well, the thing of it is, Linda, I learned that my mother had issues before she had kids.
Wow. Before she
even had me, that she had issues.
Okay.
So because
she was dealing with her own
She was dealing with her own stuff. By the time she was 18, she had 2 children. Wow. You see what I'm saying? So it was just so many different things that she had going on. So I never held it against her.
Yeah.
I forgave her.
Yeah.
Because she didn't know.
Yeah.
And if nobody taught her how to do these, how can you expect something from somebody that they weren't taught?
That's so powerful that, our parents have had issues.
Yeah.
And we just look at the
adult. We have them.
Yeah. And so we just expected them, you're the adult, so you ought to do the right thing. But being addicted to drugs often suggests more than not, you are trying to escape something.
You're running from something.
Something is there.
Yeah.
And then you have 2 parents that are like that. Wow, that is something. I want to take a commercial break, but when we come back, I want to talk about what happens when your mom comes out of prison. Okay. All right. This is Conversations with Linda. We're talking to my niece, Stephanie, and this is a powerful conversation. And I hope that it's giving you some perspective and even maybe some healing. We'll be right back. Guess what? I have a YouTube channel now. Linda Willis Empowers is my new channel. I would love to have you subscribe, hang out with me on YouTube. Listen, you got to click that little bell, and I'll also give you notification when I'm updating some new stuff. There's some juicy behind the scenes stuff that I know you're going to just love. Remember, Linda Willis Empowers, YouTube. All right, we're back with Conversations with Linda, and I am having this amazing conversation with my niece, Stephanie Willis Harris, right here in beautiful Los Angeles, California. Actually, I'm here to preach for a revival. She is now the first lady of
Village Missionary Baptist Church in Watts, California.
In Watts, girl. All right. And her husband is
W. Charles Harris.
Okay. This has really been something. I've even learned some things that I did not know, and I've been in your family 35 years.
I know.
Listen. Okay, so your mom comes out of prison. You're now 26 years old.
Yes.
You're a fully grown woman.
Yes.
You had your son
My
by
son,
then?
he was 5. He was 5 years old, yeah.
So what was that like?
It was difficult. I had to take a class.
Yeah, you mentioned you had to take a class.
I had to take a class.
I didn't even know there were classes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I had to take a class. Matter of fact, one of my fillers, I worked with at United Airlines.
And just in case you didn't get what a filler was, she was talking about these women who just filled in.
Yes. For
her in her life as mentors.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
so they had heard about a class. It was called PSI.
Okay,
and it was what it did was, Linda, it took you back to the first time you remember with your parent.
Mm.
And I was 5 years old that I remember.
Wow.
And I was sick.
Mm-hmm.
And I had scarlet fever.
Really?
Yeah. And I remember my mother. Every time I woke up, she was right there.
Okay.
Every time I woke up, she was like, you sleep because it's this fever that has you.
Uh-huh.
And so when the fever finally broke, she was like, oh my God, she was just in tears, just like, oh, you woke up.
Uh-huh.
And through that class, I cried and I remembered my mother was there.
Mm.
So that made me remember what she did for me. I need to do it for her.
That was a time when she was
Yeah.
there for you.
There, yes.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That is beautiful.
Yeah.
Because your mom passed away last year.
She did.
And tell me about that.
She was diagnosed with cancer. She didn't tell anybody. I found out April of last year. She passed away in June. But from April to June, I took care of her. It wasn't hard.
Okay.
Physically, yes.
Okay.
But emotionally, it wasn't because I knew she didn't have anybody else to do it.
Yeah.
And I was happy to do it. Because now looking back on it, it's like, you only get one mother.
Yeah. No matter what.
No matter
girl,
what.
All right now. I thought it was going to be you, but it's me.
No matter what kind of mother she is or what you think.
Somebody give me some tissue now because I thought I was going to be able to get through this. Okay. I am trying to hold it all together here. But yeah, you only get one mom. I good, bad,
whatever. It doesn't matter. You only get one. And that's your portal here.
Yeah.
And because that's your portal here, we have to respect it as such. And so even during the time taking care of my mother, I had some people ask me, how do you do that when she missed so much of your life? She wasn't there for this, she wasn't there for that.
Yeah.
But her bringing me here oversees all that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what I was going to ask you. Did you all make your peace?
Yes, we did. During my dating, my now husband, he taught me so much. Just over our dating period, how to be more humble, how to just not reply to everything that somebody says to you. Just because someone says something to you doesn't mean that you have to say anything back.
Okay.
Just how to love unconditionally.
Yeah.
And I think
you were able to love her unconditionally.
Yes, and I thank him for that because a lot of times, when people call you, and sometimes your mother call you, and you don't want to talk all the time, and it's nothing against them. You just doing your thing.
Yeah.
And so he taught me that there's going to be one day that you're going to want her to call you, and she's not going to be here.
Wow.
So Stephanie, just pick up the phone.
Yeah.
And so I did.
Yeah.
And so because of that, and all those things that he helped me with, we were able to heal our relationship. We became closer. We were able to talk more, and I understood her a little bit more. I didn't have those high expectations that I thought where I thought she should be and what she should be doing. I let them go.
Because you understood.
Because I understood that just because this is where I am, that doesn't mean that that's where she's supposed to be.
Wow. That's so kind of God. That's what I always say. So kind of God. And some people don't get that chance.
No.
To get an explanation, to make peace.
Yeah.
People ask me all the time, if one of our viewers asks, how do I forgive if the person is deceased? So you got a chance to do all of that before she passed away.
Yes.
And then you took care of her.
I did.
I
took care of her. I took her to all of her chemo treatments, her radiation treatments. I washed her, I bathed her, fed her, cooked. I did everything that I could do to make her comfortable. Shopped for her, paid her bills. I mean, everything that I needed to do. I took some falls, trying to make sure she got in the car properly, that kind of stuff. But I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah.
I would not trade it for anything because you only get one.
Yeah. I've heard people say on Mother's Day and Father's Day, well, you shouldn't tell kids to respect their parents if their parents were not there for them, if they were not good
That's not
What
true.
do you say to that?
I say that's not true. And that's the furthest thing from the truth. They brought you here.
Yeah.
And I made sure that while she was here, that she felt like a mother.
Mm.
I have two brothers, but you know how boys can be sometimes.
Right.
But I made sure that Christmas time, Mother's Day, her birthday, even just to take her out to lunch sometimes, you know, just to sit and talk sometimes, you know,
Yeah.
just to make sure that she felt good about herself.
I agree. You know, with my dad being an alcoholic, I felt the same way. That I was there.
Mm-hmm.
I took care of him until the point of death. I made sure that he had a dignified funeral service.
Yes.
Even though he didn't live that way.
Yes.
But he was still my dad.
Well, you know, my mother told me, Stephanie, don't let them look at me.
Mm-hmm.
I did, and I went on and did a funeral because my brothers did not get a chance to say goodbye.
Okay.
And I wanted to make sure that they were able to say their goodbyes properly.
Okay.
I had already done mine,
Yeah.
you know, but I wanted them to make sure that it was done properly and they were able to say goodbye to their mother, because she was not just my mother as well.
Yeah. And they, I'm sure, had their own perspective about her, and everybody didn't feel the same way.
Well, the thing of it is, Linda, and it's the sad thing about it is that everybody doesn't have the same God in them that you have in you. So I know from that foundation that Jesus' introduction, he resides in me.
Right.
So that's how I was able to heal.
Okay, God.
Linda.
Because you can't do it by yourself.
You can't do it by yourself. You can't.
You don't do these kinds of things with parents and people who abandoned you.
Right.
All of those things, reject whatever your issue is. I just don't know how you do it without the Lord. That's the only way I've been able to do it.
You can't. I don't. I mean, if you say you can, it's not really happening. Mm-hmm. And that's just my thought. I could be wrong, but I know with him I can do all things.
Yeah. So your dad is still living?
My dad is still living.
What's your relationship like with him?
It's a little difficult.
Okay.
I did go over, you know, as I told you the other day, that I did go over after my mother passed away. Mm-hmm. I tried to keep a bridge. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't, you know, I'm not as, I guess, there like I was with my mother. It's a little different.
Okay.
I love him because of who he is. And I believe that I'll be there for him. And I'm still praying for a better relationship with him.
Okay. So, Stephanie, I've dealt with a lot of people who have had trauma in their lives, and one of the issues that they deal with is, why did God allow this to happen? If you love me, God, why would you allow me to have these kinds of parents and go through what I've gone through? So I want to ask you, have you ever been mad at God for what happened in your life?
No. Okay. I would say no, because experiences, you have to go through experiences.
Okay.
And as I got older and just realized and noticed what my purpose was, that my experiences were going to help others.
Sure.
How can I tell someone that it's going to be okay because, you know, they're unhappy living with their grandmother or great-grandmother or even uncle aunt? They're displaced. Yeah. Because I've been displaced. How can I help somebody if they're a single parent, because I was a single parent? So I feel like God gave me those experiences because he had a greater purpose for me.
Wow. That's beautiful. And today, even in this conversation, you're helping our viewers, because I'm sure you're not the only one.
No, I know I'm not.
Even in our listening audience.
Right.
That has had this type of experience. And I believe in you sharing your journey, sharing your perspective, and even your healing is helping someone else today.
I hope so, Linda. I really hope so.
And I just want to thank you for having me, being in this moment, in this space with me, and having this conversation.
Happy to be here, and I really hope that this blesses someone.
Yeah. So our question today comes from a viewer in Cordova, Tennessee. They say, how do I keep from cussing out my coworker that keeps throwing me under the bus in front of my boss? Well, I'm so glad you asked. and didn't just make the decision to curse them out. Listen, what you want to do first is pray. That's right. Say a prayer so that you can gain composure, right? Get yourself together. And of course, you can gain perspective. Because is this person intentions to throw you under the bus? Or are they just speaking their truth or addressing an issue? And it's causing you to feel thrown under the bus because it exposes something you're doing or not doing. So you want to gain perspective. Secondly, if you really do feel that there's malicious intent, then you want to find a safe place after you pray, a safe place for both of you to talk and just ask, may I talk to you? And then approach it with a positive intention. What is the positive intention? To resolve the issue, not to attack them, not to, as you say, curse them out for what you feel they've done, but to resolve the issue. The issue is, have I done something to offend you that's causing you to take the opportunity when we're in front of the boss to say something negative about me? Or is there something you're needing me to do, job related, that you feel I haven't stepped up to the plate to do? I'm asking to give you an opportunity to personally tell me so that we can work through it. It's never good to curse a person out. Now, it may feel good because it gets that frustration off, but it's never a good thing because it only throws gas on the fire. So you want to pray and gain perspective and then approach for a positive outcome. I hope that this advice has helped you. And let me just throw in there, take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. I hope this has helped you and that you will be able to resolve that conflict.
If you have a question for Linda, submit it online at lindawillisempowers.org. She's a wife, she's a mother and grandmother, she's a pastor and life strategist. Submit your question today at lindawillisempowers.org.
So listen, it's been powerful. It's been amazing. It's been deep, this conversation that we have experienced today. But as I said to Stephanie, I hope that you have received some type of healing, perspective to go forward in your journey. Tune in every Sunday at 7 p.m. for Conversations with Linda. Listen, these conversations go all over the place. And today it was in Los Angeles, California. I am out of time, but I am never out of conversation. I hope to see you soon.